I've noticed that people often lose the room after they have already made their point. Most people think this happens because others are kind of rude or impatient. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes you kept talking after your point was already clear. And each extra sentence made your first answer sound less certain. Now, most people do not over explain because they have too much to say. They do it because they are watching the room. Think about it. They answer a question, but no one reacts. So they start adding more and more into it. Someone looks confused, so they explain again. Then the room gets quiet, and guess what? They feel the silence. What they're really looking for is proof that their answer was accepted by others. I know this personally because I've caught myself doing it as well. I would make my point, see no reaction, and then assume that I needed to keep going. But silence does not always mean people disagree with you. Sometimes it means that they're thinking. Sometimes it means that they understand. And sometimes there's simply just nothing else to say. When you keep talking, you can turn a clear answer into something that sounds uncertain. Here, think about it. Think about the last meeting that you had where someone talked for too long. You probably understood their point clearly, but they just kept adding details. After a while, you just stop listening to what they were saying and you start waiting for them to finish what they were saying. That's usually what happens when you over explain. You're too focused on making your point clear, but the room sees someone who does not know when a point is finished. And people cannot see your intent, but they can only see your behavior. They can only see your behavior. You may feel like you're being careful, and they may see hesitation. You may feel like you're being helpful. They may see someone trying to convince themselves. That does not mean every short answer is good. A short answer can still be vague, incomplete, or wrong. The goal is not to say as little as possible. The goal is to stop when the answer is complete. Now, a clear answer needs space. If someone asks for an update, give them the update. For example, the equipment arrives on Thursday. The inspection is Friday. We will be ready by Monday. And then stop. You don't need to repeat the timeline unless someone asks a question. You do not need to explain every problem you saw before giving the update. You do not need to fill the silence before nobody responded right away. Just simply let the answer sit. If people need more information, they will ask. That's not you being cold. Simply trusting that your first answer did its job. Stop asking for permission. One habit that weakens a strong answer is ending with, does that make sense? I know I'm a huge victim of that. There's nothing wrong with checking whether people understand. The problem is using that question after every point. It can make a clear statement sound like you're asking a room to approve it. Instead, use a specific question. What part needs detail? Or do you see anything I miss? Now, at that point, you're not asking whether your entire point made sense. You're asking the other person to identify what they need to know. That creates a real conversation instead of making you explain everything twice. Now, the urge to over explain gets stronger when somebody pushes back. You state your position, they disagree, and then guess what? You repeat what you said in a different way of saying it. But did you know did you know by repeating yourself it's not always the same as defending your point? Sometimes it is just disagree it's making the disagreement longer. So instead, ask the question, what parts do you disagree with? Now they have to point at the actual issue. Maybe they disagree with your facts. Maybe they disagree with your plan. Maybe they misunderstood you. But guess what? You cannot know which problem you are solving until they name it. Do not argue with every possible objection within your head. Make them show you the real one. Now, now, a simple rule for meetings that you can do, right, is before you add another sentence, ask yourself, will this change the decision? If it changes the decision, say it. If it gives the listener information they need, say it. If it only repeats your point or proves how much you know, leave it out. This is where a lot of smart people loses others. They know the subject well, so they want to show the entire thought process, but the room may only need the answer. Your job is not to display every step you took. Your job is to give people what they need to act. Now, an introvert's advantage in all of this is that this matters for us because we often do most of our thinking before we speak. We enjoy observing the room. We consider different outcomes. We try to make sure our answer is correct or right. But after doing all of that thinking, we sometimes weaken the answer by adding too much to it. Our quiet nature is not the problem. The problem is we are distrusting our answer once it leaves our mouth. We don't need to become louder, and we don't need to dominate the room. But what we do need to do is make sure your point, our point, is clearly recognized when we are finished speaking. That is precision, and precision is more powerful than trying to sound powerful or polished. Now, here's what to practice. The next time someone asks you a question, answer it in one or two sentences. Then just shut up, keep your hands still, look at the person in the eyes, and let silence sit for maybe 2 through 5 seconds. If they need more, they'll ask. If they disagree, ask them what part they disagree with. If you catch yourself adding another explanation, stop and ask, does this change the answer? Most of the time, it doesn't. You don't lose respect because you're quiet. You lose clarity because when you kept talking, you lose clarity when you keep talking after your point's clear. Say what needs to be said, then let your answer stand. Now, if this helped you, subscribe. I make videos for introverted professionals who want to take their work and their judgment seriously, and those who want it to be taken seriously. But thank you for your time and thank you for listening.